All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich CELENZA. Thanks for checking out the Rich CELENZA show. So, what I think I'm going to call this podcast is When Your Will Gets Paralyzed. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to even be able to get through this podcast, and I say this sometimes. If it sucks, I'll delete it, or if I can't get through it, I'll stop short, and you most likely would never know that I did this one. But I didn't want to kind of at least give this one a shot because I think when it comes to our will, I think a lot of times we feel like kind of giving up or we're paralyzed after a certain amount of time. It's kind of like we just run out of steam. And I'm not saying we quit on a lot of things, but I do kind of feel like we do. Which is kind of, I think people don't understand, man, sometimes if you live to, say, 40, 50, 60 years old and above, life's long. Life's long. I know we always talk about it being fast, It is, don't get me wrong. When you look at it from that perspective, life does move fast before you know it. You're 50 years old and you're like, holy shit, how'd this happen? How are my kids in their 20s or 30s? Before you know it, you're a grandparent, in your 50s even. You're like, what the hell is going on here? Some are even in their 30s. My grandmother was in her 30s and my mother was in her teens when did she have me in her teens? Yeah. So, you never know. But when it comes to our will, I think a lot of times, especially as we get older, it's hard. And it's hard to kind of keep moving forward, especially when you have like setback after setback after setback. Because I think no matter who you are, life's about setbacks, failures. I talk about it all the time. Fail forward. And, the will to not only move forward, but the will to survive, and the will to stay healthy, and the will to keep up financially, and really the will to after a certain amount of time, I think a lot of us question, is it all worth it? Is what we're doing worth it? Is our workplace, what do I keep, doing this for work for? Or if you own your own business, even if you're younger, you're going to college, for instance, or you could be in high school, you could be playing sports. I think we all go through a time in our life where we kind of just, our will, it just kind of goes numb, I guess you could say. And I sometimes even catch myself. You wake up in the morning a lot of times and you're just like, what am I going to do today? You know what you got to do today, but am I going to really enjoy what I do today? I've been fortunate this last year with COVID because I was able to learn so much about myself and back to creating a bunch of things that I always wanted to create again over the last decade. But then I realized after I kind of got all that off my chest, I guess you could say, then I've kind of was like, wow, you've already kind of done a lot of things you wanted to do. And I'm not saying that I was successful at them, but I think just in life, a lot of us did a lot of things that we may have wanted to do. And that can be even work, it could be traveling maybe, and, it could just be relationships, maybe having children, being a grandparent, whatever all these things are. Going to college or whatever the hell you did, why should I keep kind of going forward? And I know we have to survive. That's ridiculous. I'm not saying quit on your life, but it's kind of that will to love what you're doing or what you want to do. It's kind of, and I've seen through COVID, especially kind of through the pandemic, where a lot of people are just kind of out of juice. I think they were out of juice before, but this really kind of was, the dagger, I guess you could say, through the heart a little bit, because I think a lot of people I think the economy was good. There was no question about that. And I think people were doing better. And I think if you're like me, I've seen throughout my life, each decade, it seems like after a certain amount of time, you have these good decades and bad decades, or good years and bad years. And it's kind of one of those things again. Like, okay, now we're going through this shit. Like the economy's going to get destroyed. Stock market, real estate, we're going to start all over again with this. My real estate was up, now it's going to go back down. Or now I got to be stuck at home, or now it's got to be this way. What is going on here? And I can only again speak for myself, where I've been fortunate enough, and I don't know if this is self-centered or not, but I kind of lived in my own world. And I don't think, sometimes it works in my relationships and sometimes it doesn't. But I do think sometimes, if you want to have, a stronger will to do things that you want to do. You're just going to have to learn to just kind of go at it independently. Because I do believe that for the most part, if you're not happy independently or by your, just doing what you want to do, how the hell are you going to make anybody else happy? Nor, that's not your responsibility. But a lot of us, I think, when it comes to our will, we're doing a lot of things, I should say, for other people, which is great. But after a certain amount of time, don't get me wrong, it's rewarding. I think a lot of us, we do things for who we're dating, who we're married to, our children, our parents. We keep going on because we want to, I'm not saying impress them, but we want to make sure they're taken care of. We want to make sure that they're protected. We want to make sure maybe they're going to have a better life than what they had before, or any of these type of things. But by doing a lot of those things after a certain amount of time, it does drain you. It exhausts you. I think especially in the United States, so many things are geared around money. A lot of our self-worth is so structured around money, which is understandable. What I really found interesting is when I went to Italy, and you have North and South, and to me, these are just my opinions. South is kind of more about lifestyle, which is definitely who I am. It's all about the experience and the memory. That's who I am. That's just who I am. If you know me, you're going to go out to dinner with me, hopefully have a great time, laugh your ass off, or go to the bar, or go somewhere, have fun, go to the gym, coffee house. I like laugh, discussions. It's about the memory that I'm going to create with you. I'm not about the guy who's got to have any more, mansions or all these other things. It's just not what I'm working for. But back to North and South Italy, back to the South being really lifestyle driven, which I love. And the North is really, when I'm there, it's definitely more money driven. Everything in the north of Italy is a lot geared around money. And then when I come back to the United States, it's kind of like a lot of that I'm looking at and going, I'm not obsessed with money anymore. So when I took money out of the equation, of course I have to survive, but what's my will now? Just if everything was always money driven, to have more money, to have more things, and all these things, when you're not obsessed with that anymore, and I think this happens with a lot of people, when you hit a certain age, you're like, I don't want a bigger home. I don't need 2-3 cars. I don't need all expensive, more watches. I don't need to travel to all these other places to fill these voids I have. What gives you the will to keep moving forward? And for me, I just simplified it, honest to God. And the more I simplified it, and I've talked about this on my podcast, the less stress I had and the more I loved my lifestyle. That doesn't mean that I don't make money or money isn't important, but it's just, it wasn't something, or I was so programmed that I felt if I didn't have certain things, I was a loser. Or if I didn't have a certain amount of money coming in per day, per week, per month, I was a loser. Or I couldn't give my kids everything they always wanted. Or my parents, all these things. I still wish I can, or I do. I hope so. But in the meantime, I had to create, my own will to move forward, to make myself happy in this world, and just be kind of in the position to say, hey, this is exactly where I'm at financially. Not bullshit anybody, not pretend I'm something I'm not anymore, or any of those things. So I just kind of want to do a podcast because I think a lot of things I do talk about is what a lot of other people, I think, go through, and they're afraid to talk about, or they don't realize maybe about themselves, because when your will does get paralyzed, it's horrible. And it's almost, and I've been there, I'm not a depressed dude, I'm an aggravated type dude. So when I realize if I'm not creating or moving forward or doing something, it can be very minute. It doesn't have to be huge. I realize the less I do, the more I start to lose my will. And then before you know it, I don't think it's depression. I start to get aggravated, and then I don't know what to do with myself. It's almost like I'm kind of stuck in my head. And maybe you get in those positions too, where you're like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I losing my will to do whatever, not only what I'm doing now, but maybe things that I love to do or that I've always wanted to do. If there's things you want to do, I'm telling you, learn to go do them, or at least head that way. A lot of times they may be really unrealistic, Maybe you do want to own, a $20 million home or something in that nature. You want to start a massive business or whatever you want to do. God bless you. Start going that way. But I would say, if you're not there yet, but you're depressed because you don't know how to do those things, just take your time. I'm telling you, study, learn, because a lot of times what you think you want, and when you learn about it, it may not be what you want. And your will may shift to something else. And before you know it, whatever you shift it to, you can start to kind of build momentum. And then you'll start to realize, you know what, this is the path I'm supposed to take. So that's just my 2 cents. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I wish you guys nothing but the best. Take care.